Imagine trying to buy a loaf of bread, but the baker refuses your gold, your silver, and your credit card. Instead, he demands exactly 3 live chickens and a stone axe head from 200 miles away. This was the reality for the vast majority of human history, a bizarre, chaotic, and fascinating era before money existed. We assume that civilization is built on currency. We think that first came the coin, then the market, then the society. But the historical record suggests the exact opposite. We didn't invent trade because we had money. We invented money because trade was becoming a logistical nightmare. Long before the invention of the Lydian lion coin in 600 BCE, humans relied on the barter system. It sounds simple on paper. You have wheat, I have sheep, we swap. But economists call this the double coincidence of wants. For a trade to happen, I have to want what you have, and you have to want exactly what I have at the exact same time. If I am a fisherman with a boat full of tuna, and I want a pair of leather boots, I am in trouble. I have to find a cobbler who is hungry for sushi. If the cobbler is already full, my tuna spoils and I go home barefoot. This friction defined the Neolithic Age. It forced humans to get creative, leading to the world's first forms of proto-money. Around 9000 BCE, in the Fertile Crescent, humanity moved from hunting and gathering to agriculture. With surplus grain, we suddenly had a stable unit of value. Barley became the first currency. It was portable, divisible, and most importantly, it was edible. If you couldn't trade your bag of grain for a tool, you could at least eat it. But grain is heavy. Try carrying a month's worth of salary on your back while walking to the market. So, civilizations began to look for commodities that were easier to manage. In ancient Mesopotamia, they didn't just use grain, they used cattle. The word pecuniary, which we still use today to describe financial matters, comes from the Latin word pecus, meaning cattle. In ancient societies, cows were the original bank account. They walked themselves to the market, they reproduced, and they provided milk. But they were also risky. A drought could wipe out your entire life savings in a week. As trade routes expanded from local villages to intercontinental networks, we needed something more durable. We needed prestige items. In the South Pacific, the inhabitants of the island of Yap used rye stones. These were massive circular limestone discs, some weighing over 1,000 pounds. The bizarre part? People rarely moved them. The stones were so heavy they stayed in place, often at the bottom of the ocean or in the middle of a forest. The economy worked on a ledger system. Everyone in the village knew who owned which stone. If you bought a canoe with a giant stone, you didn't carry it home. You just announced to the village that the stone now belonged to the canoe seller. It was the world's first decentralized blockchain. While Yap was using rocks, other parts of the world were using the animal kingdom. In many African and Asian cultures, cowrie shells became the gold standard. They were small, hard to counterfeit, and perfectly uniform. They were so successful that they were used as currency in China for over 3,000 years. The transition from these commodities to actual coins was a massive leap in human abstraction. Before coins, you were trading the object itself. A cow is useful, a shell is beautiful. But when we moved to precious metals, we started trading something with no inherent use. You cannot eat gold. You cannot sleep under a pile of silver. This required a psychological shift in humanity. We had to collectively agree that a piece of stamped metal held the power to command labor, goods, and time. This was the birth of trust-based economics. The Lydians, living in modern-day Turkey, were the first to standardize this. They stamped small blobs of electrum, a natural mix of gold and silver, with a lion's head. This stamp was a guarantee from the king that the weight and purity were accurate. Suddenly, you didn't need to be a metal worker to verify your trade. You just needed to trust the stamp. This evolution reveals a hidden truth about human nature. We are not naturally greedy accumulators of metal. We are social animals who are constantly looking for a common language. Money is just that, a language. It is a way for two strangers who share no common culture, religion, or goal to interact without violence. Think about the sheer amount of faith required to accept a piece of paper or a digital number today. When you swipe a card, you aren't exchanging value. You are triggering a complex web of trust that stretches back to those ancient barley counting farmers and the stone owning villagers of Yap. We replace the cow, the grain, and the shell with the digital ledger, but the underlying mechanism remains exactly the same. We are still just trying to solve that same ancient problem. How do I get what I need from someone who doesn't know me? We often think of money as a cold, heartless invention that ruined the simplicity of the barter system. But the barter system wasn't simple, it was exclusionary. It kept us trapped in small, local groups where everyone knew each other's business. Money allowed us to move beyond our immediate tribe. It allowed us to trust the stranger. As we look toward a future of cryptocurrencies and decentralized finance, we are actually coming full circle. We are moving away from the king's stamp and back toward the community ledger. We are once again deciding what has value, not because a government tells us it does, but because we collectively agree that it holds the weight of our labor. The next time you pull a dollar bill from your wallet or tap your phone at a register, remember that you are holding the end of a very long, very strange chain. It started with a handful of seeds, evolved through a herd of cattle, survived the weight of a limestone boulder, and now exists as a flicker of data in a server farm. We have spent 10,000 years perfecting the way we trade, but if you strip away the technology and the fancy banking apps, the core remains the same. Trade isn't about the money. Trade is about the bridge we build between ourselves and the person on the other side of the counter. It is the fundamental social contract of the human race. If money were to disappear tomorrow, what would you have that someone else would want? And more importantly, would you trust them enough to take it?